What's going on? My name is Blake. We're here in Dallas, Texas at Hair Revival Studio. And this is Elizabeth, my friend, who decided to put black box dye on her hair. It's about a level 2 or 3. And she's got a natural level of like a light blonde, like a level 7. And so I just wanted to document this today, so that I could share it with my process of getting someone really blonde from a really dark level with maintaining the integrity of their hair and not over processing the color. I'll just go a little bit on what I'm using and as we move along, and if I miss anything, you can feel free to ask questions and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But if you notice, I like to pre-section the hair. I think it's pretty important. I like to pre-section the hair whenever I'm going to be doing a lot of heavy lightening applications. And that's just to help move a little quicker and to ensure that I'm not working in too large of sections. Now the product I'm working with is Davines Mask Lightener, and I mix it 1 to 2 on the scale. I think that's a really great consistency. It's like shaving cream. Just kind of moves through the hair, saturates well. Not too runny, not too dry. And what I like to do is I like to feather into the root area, because that's going to be the most difficult thing about this process, is not lightening up the root area and trying to remove all this dark off the mid-links and ends. So I like to just feather it in throughout the roots, underneath and on top, before I take a board to get good saturation. It's Monday, May 25th, and yesterday we celebrated Pentecost Sunday. And if you don't know what that is, it's a celebration of Acts chapter 2, where the Spirit of God was poured out on the earth, and from that place creativity flows and everything that is good. So I'm a little pumped up from yesterday. It was quite the service at my church. Wouldn't you say, Elizabeth?
It was on fire. That was
fire.
That was probably one of the best services I've been to.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was rad. We had all sorts of expressions of the Holy Spirit. We had spoken word, song, poetry, dance. It was really amazing. So as I moved to the front of the head, I wanted to talk about a couple things I've seen in my career with lightener applications or bleach applications that I find tend to be problematic in the salon for people. And one is saturation. Obviously, hair color in general, saturation can always be a problem. Improper saturation, even with a new balayage highlighting, if you don't saturate properly, you're going to get circles and spots and inconsistency. And then another place I see a lot of error is just improper processing time. So what I did was I like to work everything behind the ear and then everything in front of the ear. And so we've got a timer started for what's processing in the back of the head. And what we'll do is we'll keep an eye on that. And if we need to rinse the back out before the front, we'll do so, and the front can continue processing in the shampoo area. So what I was sharing with Elizabeth here is what's bad about box color and why not to use it. One main reason box color is just terrible or not a good idea is that it's unregulated. No one's regulating box color. No one's watching or keeping track with what chemicals are and are not in it. So it can just go on the shelf and it can be very inconsistent or really harmful for your hair. And the reason it's so hard to get out of the hair, one of the main reasons is, high ammonia content. So it's really opening the hair, really getting inside the hair. But a big reason that it's hard to get out is because it's got 2 types of dye. It's got indirect dye and direct dye. And what we use here in the salon and what you use in the salon for professional permanent hair color is going to be indirect dye. It's dye that lies inside the hair, underneath the cuticle, which will leave the hair shining. And direct dyes are often like fantasy colors or something that you put on top of the hair that just washes off. And so when you get the direct dye, the indirect dye, it's just a ton of dye on the hair, and it really doesn't like to move. And so I'm watching this back of this process, and I can see it's really lightening up on the ends, and it's kind of struggling in the mid links. So that's going to really leave a fun second process. We're going to really hope that that mid links picks up and catches up to the ends. So we've got a full application all over the hair, from mid links to ends. Some of it's kind of seeped into the new growth. That's okay. We're going to lighten that up. But what I like to do is I like to go back in. This part can get a little messy, but I like to go back in vertically after we've sectioned horizontally, and then just check for any dark spots. I remix 3-to-1, mask 3-to-1 instead of 2-to-1, get a little bit more of a runnier consistency for this part. Anywhere I see dark spots, I really like to work the lightener into. And so we're going to work our way around the head. This also gives you a chance to kind of feel the elasticity of the hair, see how the hair's texture is feeling, make sure everything's still strong and not losing any of the integrity of that hair. So we're just going to work our way through one side and then go back. We'll work our way back. So I'm going to work my way through this left side. And you can see areas that are a little darker than others, but the mid links really are lightening up, so I'm super happy about that. As many times as I've ever done this, no matter how small my sections are, or how much I saturate, there's always still some dark spots. And it's just, I think there's just so many variables, especially when you have someone with super thick hair like Elizabeth here. She's got a high density and about medium to thick strand. So very high density hair, super thick. So I'm just going to move through this head as quick as I can. Hair's really tangling up right now. You know, when you're lightening the hair, another thing, if it's drying out, it's not really going to continue moving. And so that's why I like to keep the consistency on the second application a little bit more runny, because it'll help keep the hair really saturated and not drying out and stop the process. We're rinsing out the first part of Elizabeth's hair. We're rinsing out the back right now. And I'm going to go ahead and put an Olaplex treatment on her hair. We didn't put it in the lightener because I really didn't want it to slow down and wanted to get a good first lift on our first application. So we are going to do the step 2, which is going to help put some of the strength back in the hair. If you're not familiar with Olaplex, it's I believe it's a disulfide bond multiplier. So it's just one of the bonds in the hairs that we affect when lightening, and it's supposed to really help keep it sustained, or the integrity of the hair. We're still going to let the front process a little bit longer. I'm about to actually start rinsing it out. Then what we'll do after this is we'll shampoo her, dry her, do a highlight application using Olaplex, and then do an all-over glaze to even out all her hair color. We've been jamming out to house fires all morning. It's amazing if you haven't heard them. So we're towel drying her hair, and then going to put the Olaplex number 2 all over her hair. You know, hair's a lot like a sponge, so when you're ever conditioning or really treating the hair, you want to make sure it's nice and dry to absorb all the nutrients. Okay, so I just want to catch y'all up with where we are. We've done one application all over, mask, Davines bleach in 30 and 40 volume, and we got a lot of really good lift. We're really past the super orange stage. We're mostly in a yellow stage. I will show you. So we do have some little bit of dark spots through here in the nape area that I'm going to work on here on the second application as I do a balayage highlight around the face. So This is actually my first time doing Elizabeth's hair. I'm friends of her sisters, older sisters, but so it looks like we had a consultation on Saturday, and I think my mind was a little fried. I had just finished doing another one of these decolorizations, box color, taking someone blonde who wanted to be a purple color. And what I importantly left out or forgot about that Elizabeth has been doing what I like to call the Dallas Shuffle, where they go blonde and then dark and then blonde and dark. So we did experience a little bit of breakage here on the ends. The hair, for the most part, is still intact, and she did already need a haircut. We experienced a little bit of breakage. I don't think it's super detrimental by any means. So I feel comfortable doing another highlight process with mask lightener, Olaplex, and 20 volume, which is really going to get me more of a 10 volume lift. So I usually wouldn't use Olaplex and 20 volume, but for the circumstances with the integrity of the hair and where we're at, that's what we're going to do. So we're going to go through, do one more application of spot checking, like just highlighting the dark or bleach application on the dark areas, and as well as doing a mini partial balayage highlighter on the top and the front, just to get a couple more bright pieces. After that, we'll take her, rinse her, do another Olaplex treatment, and then a toner all over to cool her all down. I've already went ahead and finished her out, and we just trimmed a little bit of her ends. She's really not wanting to cut too much length, so we're trying to let her hair grow. Just kind of trimmed what needed to go. And I want to show you throughout the color. So what we did was after I went through and kind of spot lightened all the darker areas, we went back through and did some toning. So I don't know if you remember, there was some pretty dark patches throughout. We just kind of went in and seeked and destroyed all those little dark spots. And there's like a feathering technique. So basically I like to apply the lightener in the darkest place and feather it in with my rat tail comb or my foiling comb to either side. And then did some balayage highlights through the top just to kind of lighten her up a little bit. I was about all I was comfortable doing with where her hair was after the first lightening process. It was a little bit dry and seemed a little bit weak. And once we let that process for about 15 minutes, rinsed her out, and I did a 2-step toner at the shampoo bowl. So I did at the root area, I did Indovinus Mask Permanent Color. I did 812 at the root with 10 volume, and then I did 1012 and 1021 equal parts with 10 volume from the mid-lengths to the ends. And that just really cooled everything down and kind of evened it up. And then, so I'm really happy that, we went from what was a box dye of about a level 2 or 3, I'd say mostly 2, with a new growth of a 7 naturally growing in, to really a nice 9 highlight, 8.5, 9. Even some of the lightest pieces are, up at the top at level 10. And for the most part, she's all over about, I'd say about a cool 9. So I'm really happy with how light we got her in those two major steps, 2 steps. If you have any questions or anything, please comment, or you can email me, and I'd happy to do this with you today.